this first Republican debate that's going to take place tomorrow in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, sans the frontrunner, Donald Trump, has decided at kind of a late stage, as is Trump's way, of not going. He's not going to the debate. Instead, he's going to be releasing some counter-programming, an interview with Tucker Carlson, set to come out tomorrow night, apparently as the debate is going, which is interesting for all sorts of reasons. But before we get to Trump, let's just talk about the candidates that are going to be on that stage, what to expect from the debate. We'll do that now with Madison Gesiotto Gilbert. She is the national spokeswoman for the Republican National Committee. Madison, good to have you with us.
So good to be with you, Vince.
How are things shaping up there? I understand you are in Milwaukee. How are things looking right now?
I'm in Milwaukee. I'm on the ground. We are super excited. I think tomorrow is going to be a great debate. It's going to be a great night. The energy is very real here on the ground for people that are going to be attending the debate. And I've been talking to people all across the country over the past couple of days that are really excited to tune in and hear what these candidates have to say.
And everyone who's going to be appearing on that debate stage, they all met some minimum threshold for being there, right? Whether it's the number of donors that they have, how well they're polling. And also, they all had to make a promise that they will support the eventual Republican nominee. Is that true?
That's correct. It's been a few months now since we originally put out all of our debate criteria, and we were very clear on what that would include. Obviously, polling being one of those things. Candidates had to poll at least 1% in 3 national polls, or 1% in 2 national polls, and 1% in an early state poll from 2 separate carve-out states. For fundraising, they had to have a minimum of 40,000 unique donors, at least 200 in each state or territory. And then, of course, as has been the hot debate, the hot topic, people had to sign that candidate pledge. And obviously, all 8 of our candidates that'll be on stage tomorrow did sign that pledge, saying that they agreed to support the eventual nominee next year.
Do you believe them, Madison? Because at least in the case of 2 candidates I can think of, Chris Christie has previously signaled that he's not going to support Trump. So did he lie when he signed that form?
I think that he didn't really see the full language of what our pledge included before he ultimately made the decision to sign it. We expect that each one of our candidates is genuine. We do look at the intent of what they're saying, and when they sign the pledge, that does come into play. And we felt after analyzing this that each one of those 8 did sign the pledge after seeing the full language with the intent to follow everything that it says. And so whether it be obviously supporting the eventual nominee or agreeing to not participate in non-sanctioned debates outside of our RNC debates, obviously we have a data sharing agreement in there, and they needed to present it to us within 48 hours.
What was Madison? I may have missed it because I haven't seen the language. What other language may have convinced Chris Christie to sign on to this then?
I'm not privy to exactly why Chris Christie did or didn't sign, but ultimately at the end of the day, he did make the decision to sign, and I think recognize the importance of the unity that we're going to need. At the end of the day, none of this matters if we don't beat Joe Biden.
Sure.
People in this country have been suffering for 2.5 years. As far as I'm concerned, very unnecessarily. Biden himself, even after taking office, made a lot of promises that he simply didn't keep. People in my home state of Ohio and all across this country have felt the negative impact of that, and they're sick of it. And so I think one of the things that I'm looking forward to, and I think many people are looking forward to tomorrow, is not just for Republican primary voters to hear the messages from our candidates and to hear this Republican vision that stands in contrast to what Joe Biden and the Democrats have to offer, but for independents and Democrats that won't necessarily be voting in those Republican primaries, but for that seed to be planted, for them to hear this vision and to ultimately realize that, listen, you do have an alternative. Things don't have to be this way, and here's how it could be. Here's the prosperous American future that you could have. And so I think that could ultimately help us swing a lot of independents that simply didn't swing our way in 2022, unfortunately.
Right. And after what appears to be, in some cases, an aggressive primary process. Obviously, Trump is way out ahead, but you've got some bad blood directed at him from some of the candidates on that stage. What you need to beat Biden is some unity behind that nominee, whoever that ends up being. And one last question on people who appear on that stage and not exactly committing to Trump should he win this thing. Asa Hutchinson said this on MSNBC yesterday.
And the pledge is a condition of being at the debate that you'll support the eventual nominee. I'm just trying to find the consistency with your stated positions. I admire some of them, but some of them don't add up.
Well, you got to think a little bit lawyerly here that I signed it saying I'm going to support the nominee of the party. I do not believe that Donald Trump will be the nominee of the party, so I can feel comfortable in signing that pledge.
So is he okay to be on that debate stage then, if that's his position? Because it looks like at this moment, Trump's kind of on his road to being the nominee.
Listen, if Donald Trump is the nominee and he comes out victorious at the RNC, we're going to make sure he's equipped with every tool, just like any other candidate, to win this election. And we expect that the other 8+ candidates that ran for that primary will do the same, and making sure that we get across that finish line. I think when you look at the greater good of a Republican vision, if you look at the greater good of our country and of our party, we have to stick together. The Democrats, time and time again, election after election, you've seen this, Vince. We've talked about this. You know, they come together, they fight behind closed doors, but they do what it takes to get across the finish line. And I think as Republicans in 2024, we need to do a better job of that than ever before if we want to win, not just the presidential, but many of our down ballot races as well.
Now, do you think Donald Trump made a mistake? I know you've, of course, been a Trump supporter for a long time. Do you think that Donald Trump made a mistake by not participating in this debate?
You know, I would have loved to see the president there. I wish he would have changed his mind, and I hope in future debates he will participate. Because, again, I think it's a huge opportunity for every one of our candidates to get out there and speak to independents and Democrats that we're going to need to help us get across the finish line next November. On top of that, you look at that mainstream media narrative that we've been combating for years, not just, you know, Trump himself, but Republicans as a whole. I mean, we don't get the fair coverage in the same way that the Democrats do. We don't get the puff pieces written about us. And so we're very much forced to combat that every opportunity that we get. And I think this debate's going to be a great opportunity to talk about the facts of what we have to offer and present solutions, not just sell a dream, but present solutions that are based in reality, things that we can actually accomplish, things that our candidates can actually do for the American people, that are fact-based solutions. And so I think that's going to be huge when you talk about connecting with some of these voters that are spending more money, that have seen the prices of everything in their lives go up, that families simply can't afford the higher taxes they've paid under Biden, to see them be able to listen to the Republican vision and recognize that they do have an option for something different. I think that's going to be huge. And I think this debate and other debates, as well as other opportunities that we'll have as a Republican Party to share that through every one of our Republican candidates, is an important part of us winning next November.
Madison Gesiotto Gilbert, we're seeing, again, RNC spokeswoman today joining us. We're seeing some headlines that Fox News is barring Donald Trump's surrogates from being in the post-debate spin room tomorrow night. My understanding is that the RNC kind of controls who gets to go into the debate room, and Trump surrogates will be there. But Fox apparently controls the spin room after. What do you make of that decision by the network to blockade these surrogates for Trump?
Yeah, so Fox does make that decision. We do not have any control over who is in or out of the spin room. They made the decision. We have seen it. When it comes to what is our responsibility, what are we doing? Well, we're here to put on fair and honest debate for our candidates and to present a fair and honest primary process to the Republican voters. So that's what we're committed to. That's what we're doing. And unfortunately, we don't have any control over the spin room or who goes in or out.
So this is, of course, the first of these Republican primary debates. What should we expect going forward beyond Wednesday in terms of what do these debates look like? Who's actually going to be moderating them? Fox seems like obviously one of the networks that would be in the game here. Who else might we see a debate with?
So we have our Fox Business debate coming up next month in September. That's been announced. And we have some different criteria that's been released on that. So for people to qualify for that next debate, they're going to have to poll at least 3% in 2 national polls, or 3% in 1 national poll and 3% in 1 early state poll from 2 separate carve-out states. Again, those being Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina are early carve-out states. For fundraising, they're going to need to step it up as well. 50,000 unique donors. Again, 200 of those donors coming from each state or territory. And then, of course, the pledge remains that third requirement.
Okay. And I imagine that the outreach to Trump continues at the RNC to get him to be a part of those future debates.
Of course, we're in contact with the president, and we hope that he will be a part of the future debates, and I certainly encourage him to do so.
Yeah, and if 3% is the cutoff, that you're starting to remove a bunch of people at that point. I mean, right now I am seeing the top 2, other than Trump, are Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy, both polling at around 10% in a poll just out in the last 48 hours or so. And beyond that, you're starting to get a lot of also-rans. So a lot of, a lot might be decided tomorrow night on that debate stage, Madison.
Yeah, and I think that's why everybody that's listening needs to make sure they tune in. I think it's going to be a very exciting night. anything can happen. And we've seen this in election cycles past. Where people, rise to the top that you never expect. And so anybody's message could resonate with the American people tomorrow. We're looking forward to all of those messages being presented. And again, every one of those messages is going to be way better than what we have in the White House right now, which is why we're so excited for the time as of now as a Republican Party for what we have to offer. We think every one of our candidates could do 10 times better job than what Joe Biden's been doing. He's been a complete and total failure and an unempathetic president.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to some change in 2024.
Which is why I would like to hear Chris Christie and Asa Hutchinson say, in a heartbeat, I would support Trump over Joe Biden. It's the most obvious thing ever. Madison Gesiotto Gilbert from the RNC, thank you so much for your time today.